It's a Canadian teen drama, you get that dystopian storyline, there's a big focus on like music and performing. I mean, what more could you ask for? Hey guys, it's Kristen and today we are talking about Hulu's new show, Utopia Falls. Now this is a show that I had heard a little bit about, but really I was so interested in checking it out because I saw an article that described it by saying Hulu's new young adult sci-fi drama is like Divergent meets Footloose with some hip-hop flavor and a lot of very Canadian production values. And that's just something that immediately speaks to me. I don't know why, but I am just drawn to that. I love that idea. It sounds like a show that's right up my alley, so I had to check it out. And after watching it, I would say maybe it's a little bit more like Divergent meets The Hunger Games meets America's Got Talent, except this is Canadian, so Canada's Got Talent? Utopia Falls is definitely a dystopian story. Amidst the charred ruins of Earth, a group of teens are chosen to compete in the prestigious Exemplar Performing Arts competition. During this very important time in their lives, they stumble upon a hidden archive of cultural relics, and they start to question everything that they've been taught. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on Utopia Falls. We're following people that live in this domed city that they're shielded off from the outside world that supposedly is a wasteland and toxic and just very dangerous. So in this domed city there are four sort of factions: industry, progress, reform, and nature. Once a year there's this big performing arts competition called the Exemplar, and it's really cool to see that in this society performing and the arts are so important to them. It's sort of this event that gives people in the city hope. It's really prestigious, it's like a big honor to be brought into it, and we're following the candidates from being chosen to actually finishing out the competition and who will be the winner. You know, there's love triangles, heartbreak, drama, and while all of this excitement is going on, a bunch of the characters discover this archive which is hidden in a bunker that has all of these things from the olden times, which is kind of like our modern day, you know, hip-hop music, art, history, science, all this information that you can learn about, and they're clearly not supposed to have access to it. This society that they live in sort of thrives on like diversity but not self-expression. Music like hip-hop, for instance, is something that they are introduced to, and that's something that doesn't exist in their current society because even though they support music and the arts, they don't want to hear people telling their own individual stories or criticizing the government and things like that, which is something that we've seen in hip-hop music, is people telling their stories and speaking out. The teenagers that we're following go on this really interesting journey as characters who are more sheltered and they don't really know what's going on, and then they kind of like crack open this huge mystery around their city, and they learn about protesting and speaking out and trying to make the world a better place. I think our main cast is super talented. There's a lot of really incredible dancers and singers and people that you'll recognize from other Canadian shows like Devin Nakota, for instance. I watched backstage, so that was really fun to be like, oh, there she is again. And they managed to get a really big name to play the archive voice, Snoop Dogg.
I'm the archive. Choose your subject.
What's hip-hop?
Which I think was perfect, especially because this show is so focused on hip-hop, and you got someone who is so iconic in that space. Just knowing that Snoop Dogg was the voice was like everything. Especially there's one moment where he's like, hey, have you heard this music from Snoop Dogg? And I'm just like, oh, classic. Classic Snoop. But it was really interesting to watch all of these characters access the archive and kind of get different things out of it. The character Sage, she kind of goes through a traumatic experience, and then she starts diving into capoeira, which is like a Brazilian fight dance style, and later we get to see her really use that to kick some butt. There's a character Apollo, and he kind of finds out that some sort of drumbeat that's always been within his family actually dates back to like years and years ago in the past, and you know, kind of connects him to his roots, and that was really interesting. Bodhi really finds a deep connection with like rap and expressing yourself and your story through words, and I think each character sort of goes on a journey from the very beginning of this season to the end where they really come into their own more and really embrace who they are. They go through a lot of trials and tribulations, but they come out stronger in the end. There's also a lot of great twists and turns and cliffhangers as we get towards the end of the season. And I think they really did a great job of including hip-hop music in this show and really focusing on its impact as being this music of a revolution, of being this music that threatens authority. And they feature so much great classic music in this show, everything from Kendrick Lamar to Nas to Biggie to Grandmaster Flash. They're talking about DJ Kool Herc. You know, we're really diving into a lot of like hip-hop history. I think they could have have talked a little bit more about some of the women in hip-hop, but I think that this is definitely like a fun starter pack for someone who maybe is interested in hip-hop but doesn't know that much about it to kind of get, you know, that 101 course. On the other side of things though, I will say some of the story felt like it got muddled a little bit. You know, one of the big plot points is supposed to be about this character Aaliyah who finds this archive and realizes it's connected back to her mother in some way, and I just feel like they didn't go far enough in showing us that. In terms of the performances, I think some of them were actually really good and some of them I felt were a little bit of a miss. I'm hoping that if this show does get a second season, they really kind of work a little bit more on the original songs, just because I think that there's the potential to have them be something really incredible. Another thing that was missing a little bit for me was just that kind of glamour and that showmanship and that excitement around these exemplar candidates sort of being treated like celebrities. Sort of like in the Hunger Games, you know, everyone was really rooting for different people, like they really became famous within their community. And I think they could have just done a little bit more there in making these characters feel like they've become celebrities, sort of, you know, adding a little bit more of a wow factor. And, you know, one of the things that I think kind of felt like an oversight a little bit was like the character Mags goes missing for a little while, but he's like an exemplar candidate, so you would think that this would be a huge deal because he's one of like these honorees that's chosen for this very special event. Like you would just think that it would have had a little bit bigger of an impact, and I think that would have tied back in more just to these characters being treated a little bit more special because they are sort of supposed to be these celebrities. You know, this is a really huge honor. And after a while it did start to feel like the exemplar wasn't a huge priority, and I wish that they focused on that a little bit more. I think scripting wise, you know, the show does feel like a Canadian teen drama, which is what it is, and at times there were a couple of moments where I think it got a little bit cheesy, but overall I really had a lot of fun with this one. I just love Canadian shows. This one was one for me that I just had so much fun getting through. I think it does have a strong message. I think that it does a really great job in the way it infused hip-hop into the story. Again, the dancing especially is on point. I think there were a lot of twists and turns and I couldn't wait to see what was gonna happen next. I don't think it's like perfect, but it was just a lot of fun. I would recommend it, and I hope you guys decide to check it out and that you enjoy it as much as I did. And I definitely think that they opened up a bigger storyline to explore even further in a potential season 2. If you guys like this one, you can check out more of my Hulu reviews right over here, and I will catch you in my next video. See ya!